Good morning, everybody. I hope y'all are doing well. This video is going to be about grind and cleanup of the Rucker 12s and the Rucker 9-inch straight edges. I want to let you guys know that my heat is back to where it should be. I'm getting good quality iron once again, so the shutdown was well worth it. I want to give a shout out and show my appreciation to SUHNER Industrial Products out of Rome, Georgia. They were kind enough to send me a gift package several months ago that included a wide array of grinding wheels and cutoff wheels. I am sold. I have been using what I would refer to as generic over-the-counter grinding wheels up to this point, which glaze over easily, and they just don't seem to have that aggressive cut that I need. SUHNER, on the other hand, I'm using the same exact wheel that I put on that grinder the day I got this package, and there's virtually no wear on the wheel. But that wheel has a very aggressive cut. I'm very impressed with it, and I'm very impressed with the other products that they have available. If you're in the field where you're doing a lot of grinding and you're wanting to upgrade, check these guys out and see what they've got to offer. If you have any questions, feel free to call Donnie Terry at 706-314-2918, or you can email him at donnie.terry@suhner.com. There's nothing new here. I'm a few days behind schedule, as usual. Sunday I poured this batch, and my back was kind of aching a little bit after the pour. Well, keep in mind, guys, if you're trying to pick up a sack of cement with a stick, you've picked up a ladle of iron, and it can be very tricky. You have to be careful, and at the same time, you have to have the right strength in the right areas of your body as you sport that. Well, the following morning, Monday, I'm getting up to go to my job in Jackson, in agony, trying to get out of my bed and get my feet on the floor. I'll bet it took 10 minutes. I was wiggling inches at a time backwards off the bed just to achieve getting up. And somehow, miraculously, I made it to work on time. Here I am using a cutoff wheel to saw the gates off as low as possible to the face of the bottom of the casting. This will aid in machining. It will be one less pass a machinist has to make. And, you know, these are generally going to be rougher. As you notice, I am rocking the blade back and forth. This keeps you from bearing down on an entire surface area, overheating the wheel, and you're just not cutting, you know, that much at all when you don't keep it moving like this. As I said, I'm trying to cut it down as low as I possibly can, and that will be that many passes less that a machinist has to make before it's cleaning up the iron. Here I've switched over to the grinding wheel, and I am hogging out. It doesn't look like it here, but that particular gate is still sticking up 1/8 of an inch tall. So I'm hogging quite a bit of metal out of there at a pretty good pace. I don't have this sped up, and it didn't overheat the wheel, it didn't glaze over, it didn't even cause any discoloration. After I get these gates ground down close to the same height as the rest of the profile on the bottom, I work on the parting lines. The parting lines really don't take that long generally. They're not really that bad. Once I get through with the bottom of the casting, then I switch to the ends while I'm still holding it there. And then I set it to the side and I grab the next casting, and I do them all the same way, and that way I don't miss anything. That's the main thing you want to avoid. You want to be as consistent as possible. Even on the grinding cleanup, you don't want to do one grind operation and completely miss it on the next part. Here I'm working the ends down while I still have this casting on hand, and once I get the ends done, I will set that to the side. As I was saying earlier, if you go all over the part, all over the casting, and then you go to the next casting, you're going to miss something every time. So it's better to take it in little steps, do so much at one time on each casting, and you're covered. This grind video is per request of some of my subscribers. I have had several in the past mention that I need to include more on the grind and cleanup. And the truth is, usually by the time I get to this point, I'm in such a hurry to get these parts shipped because they're usually behind, and I am frantically trying to get these to the post office as soon as possible. As I said earlier, with my back all jacked up, I can't do anything else this week anyway, so I may as well do a good detailed video. This is where you have to be attentive to detail. What I do on the bottom side of these castings, and even on the ends, doesn't really matter. If I nick them, if I dig in too deep with the grinding wheel, all that's going to be machined off anyway. On the upper detail, you have to be very careful. What I'm doing here is blending the parting line in with that shoulder, and I'm going to go all the way around the perimeter on this operation, and I'm going to just take very small grinds, and as you can see, I'm rolling that grinder to the left and the right, and that's to match the profile of that shoulder that's given. Every once in a while, I will have a casting where both halves of the pattern didn't quite flush out with each other. And that's called mismatch or casting shift. And what happens is the parting line will have a step in it instead of being the same equal distance anywhere around that casting. When you run into that, it takes a little more patience. You have to not only blend the parting line down, but you also have to blend one half of that pattern down to match up with the other side of the profile. This is usually a little tricky area where these small veins or the tabs are. You have to be very careful here. The slightest amount of pressure will cause it to dig in. And the best way to follow the original contour of that is not to go straight in. Is to start off on the sides and come off with the back edge of your grinding wheel and rake up. And if you're on original surface there, you won't be picking up or following along with a jagged flashing. You're using the sides of that radius on the tab as a guide. Just like on the shoulders, I roll the grinder back and forth, as you can see, to follow along with the contour of the casting as I take the parting line down. There will be at least 20 of you at the end of this video telling me how I need to be using a belt sander. And, you know, you can't beat a belt sander for long flat areas or even convex areas. But when you're trying to get into fine little corners like where I'm at right here, I would waste a lot of time and still end up having to chase it out with a wheel before it's over with. You tell them, Dollar. Here I'm grinding one of the 12-inch straight edges, one of the first ones that I was able to successfully cast. The profiles change a little bit on the 12-inch opposed to the 9-inch on the shoulders, so you have to be careful not to go too deep on any of that, particularly because the shoulders, the rims are thinner in profile. The sections of them are about probably 30% thinner than on the 9-inch. So with that said, mismatch can be a big problem because there's not enough material to blend, so these have to be perfect in line with each other on each side. I do implement a wire wheel on the end of a high-speed die grinder to kind of help blend the surface a little bit, or blend the transition of the cast to the ground. And also it comes in handy when the wire wheel didn't get all the sand off. This little thing will get down in deep corners and get it on out of there. Here I'm trying to blend any little steps like this that I can feel on my fingernail and try to flatten them on out. Alright, so this is the last step of the cleanup process. I am running a burr in the little windows to knock any flashing that may have been left in there out of the way. I usually take the wire wheel on the die grinder and knock out any sand first, and then I follow with the burr just to keep the silica from chipping the carbide on the burr. And then as a final step, I use the wire wheel to, there again, blend the surface the best I can. Main thing I'm shooting for here is I do not want any sharp edges that could cut. The video that Keith put out the other day was a little late. I was sure needing to see that 6 months ago. My plumbing is awful for the air. I am going to end up having to put a dryer in as I can afford it. About every 5 minutes after running any of the air tools, I get slugs of water coming through. Okay, so now they went into the kiln for stress relief. They are still hot. I'm having to be careful how long I hold these, but they are ready to brush off and get shipped. Well, this is it. I just took a little stainless steel brush and knocked off the old mill scale or oxidation, whatever you want to call that patina. I got to stop right here, get these boxed. It's 10:23, and now I've got an hour and a half to get these boxed up and shipped. I'll worry about brushing the 12-inch later, but yep, these are ready to go, and this is everything that's involved with the cleanup and grind process of these straight edges. I hope every one of you are doing well, and I will talk to you later. One thing I didn't mention is the safety glasses, wearing the proper safety apparel when doing grinding, especially using cutoff wheels. Cutoff wheels have a lot more tendency to fly apart on you than a wheel would, especially if they've been dropped. So always be mindful if you do drop your grinder with a cutoff wheel in there. If you think it hit on any part of the wheel, just change the thing out. It's not worth it. Get rid of it.